Funk is dead is what they said while sitting around cheating and pool. Their bags were bagging, they weren't bragging. To tell the truth, they were looking real cool. Now they were choked up tight in their white on white and their cocoa brown fronts were down. They wore candy striped ties that hung down to their flies and they sported gold dust crowns. It was the 15th frame of a 9-ball game and they all stood digging the plate. With an idle shrug, they suddenly dug a strange cat moving their way. He was a medium-built cat with a funny time hat and he looked about 5 years old. He wore a messed up vine and he needed a shine and he shivered as if he was cold. To all the other guys, they surmised this dude was some ordinary flunky. But to the well-trained eyes of how the mothership flies, you can tell them comp scholars was funky. That verse from George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic's 1993 song Martial Law links up at least 3 different generations of black oral tradition, as it is a remix of an old folk tale titled either Hip Bud or Billy Bud, but it also provides a poet in one of my favorite movies with the opening lines of his poem as he tries to court photographer Nina Mosley. But as another character in that movie, Love Jones, says over their own game of pool, let me break this down so it can forever and perpetually be broke. Can I do that? Can we dispense with the pretense of the scholarly paper for a minute so I can do that? I ask for your permission because my message this morning is not a scholarly one, even though it concerns our scholarship. It's not even particularly deep, though it is about some deep things. And I don't want to use this moment to pretend to speak for the organization, this organization where I learn far more from the gifts and commitments you bring than I can pretend to offer. All I have is one person's vision of what we do. And that vision, everything I think about who we are, the best of what we do and who we can be, comes down to 3 words: funk, flight, freedom. I imagine George Clinton is kind of like the Keith Gilliard figure of our field. George's protege, Bootsy Collins, says it a little differently. The sky is not the limit. Ain't no walls behind the sky, baby, so we're just gonna fly on and reach for the stars, if you know what I'm talking about. That line comes from the lyrics to one of the greatest slow jams I know, Bootsy's I'd Rather Be With You. Many of you already know that funk and soul music are primary spaces through which I enter this thinking, teaching, and serving work that we do. But beyond the thousands of songs that rotate through my various digital devices or the vinyl albums I listen to at least sometimes, and the untold numbers of songs I experience through my friends' Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, and Spotify posts, it is this one song from that space-based player from Cincinnati that has stayed with me. Through all our conference events and conference calls, through all the officers' email exchanges and in-person exchanges, through all of my walking time, coffee shop time, and library time, even through my own internal flights about ways I might escape this moment. I keep coming back to Bootsy. I'd rather be with you. Part of it is truly because I would rather be with you. There is no other discipline I'd want to be a part of than composition. But more than that, this song is the one that wouldn't let me go in all my thinking because of its reminder. No, its insistence that there are no limits, that we need to fly on and reach for the stars, that renews me in a moment when I so needed renewal. And of course, it brings together those 3 themes that I believe can guide us as we respond to the call of this conference, risk and reward, that our program chair has chosen for us. So, funk, flight, freedom. In fact, Bootsy and his Parliament Funkadelic family made flight and space travel central themes and images in their music. From the mothership as the central metaphor for P-Funk's role in the musical universe and the 20th century chariot that they invoked to swing down and let us ride to Bootsy's instruction to his audience, then we're going to fly on, past any limits that our day-to-day lives might impose on us, past any constraints that might wear on us, joined in a long line to a long tradition of tales of flying Africans, in which flight across oceans home to Africa and across galaxies to as yet unexplored stars and planets has been an ongoing motif for claiming freedom right here and now. These ideas, funk, flight, and freedom, speak to the role I believe composition and communication can play in the academy, that who we be, how we go about the work we do, and the work we see ourselves having come here to do. Our program chair, who's done an amazing job organizing this year's conference, has talked about 4 C's being the mothership of NCTE. I'll extend that metaphor past the Starship Enterprise and spot right now, though. In many ways, I think of composition as the Deep Space Nine of the Academy, the whole Academy. Now, because we have the opportunity to be part of the academic journey of almost every student who pursues higher education, hub metaphors for our work are not new. I use the Deep Space Nine metaphor in this sense as well, but with some other reasons in mind. I also believe that because of our training, our grounding in rhetoric, composing, and communicating, we have a chance to be a hub for intellectual life on campus for our colleagues, other departments, and administrators as well. Because we are a discipline and at the same time cannot be contained by ideas of disciplinarity, we can be a model and a connecting point for the hard work of inter- and transdisciplinarity we often hear talked about on campus, but rarely lived out. In fact, I often imagine composition programs and departments operating more like interdisciplinary centers than as programs and departments. And I've always believed we ought to be a hub for connections between the academy and local communities. It is precisely because we do discourse in all its messiness that we have the chance to be this kind of hub for intellectual work and for justice work on campus and off. I have funk on my mind this morning, not just because it's a genre of music that I love, but because of the ways funk artists imagined the world and our place in it. One of the things I love most about composition, one of the reasons I'd rather be with you, is because of the ways our field has arrived at a disciplinary maturity and yet remains undisciplined, unable to be disciplined. Funk is on my mind because for me it represents us dropping pretense and embracing boldness, wildness, and irreverence. A friend, brother of mine, poet and scholar Tony Bolden cites writers like Jane Cortez, Sterling Plump, and Talib Kweli as funky. Check his description. Effusive and amorphous, the funk impulse is a central component of all black music, from antebellum ring shouts and gospels to blues, jazz, funk, and hip-hop. Hence George Clinton's hyperbole, in the beginning was the funk. Characterized by an aesthetic to foreground speed, self-reflexivity, asymmetry, dissonance, and repetition, funkativity bespeaks a kinetic epistemology comprised of dynamic principles stored in a virtual archive of cultural memory, replete with pre-configuring riffs and rhymes, twists and turns, shakes and breaks that are perpetually resampled and remixed in a manner comparable to electricity. Bolden also links funk to Latino culture by referencing Federico Garcia Lorca's theorizing of the concept of duende. He quotes Lorca this way: "The duende climbs up inside you from the soles of your feet." I want to see that in somebody's first year comp syllabus along with ethos, logos, and pathos. And I yearn for my own writing to one day reflect that kind of electric kinetic epistemology. Funk is worthy of sustained scholarly attention because it is the sweat and the stank of funk, the sweet and the nasty smell of exertion as we break it on down and shake them on down, that signifies not only honest expression, exertion, and integrity, but acumen, celebration, commitment to one's work, and yes, intellect. This intellectual, creative, and physical work has helped Black folks and audience across race and culture intervene into the nation's racialized ideologies foreboding, because those steeped in the funk are free enough to toss those ideologies aside and refuse to play by the rules of the game. Intervention comes from those who are irreverent, from those who are contrary, from those who are wild. I'm talking about funk as a guiding idea for who we are in our thinking, teaching, making, and doing, because for just a minute, I want us to drop our serious scholarly persona and just talk together. I want us to move forward knowing that just like protesters in Ferguson and New York, in the Bay Area and Cleveland teach us, respectability will not save us in the streets or in the classroom, in relationships or in politics, or even in a brilliant presidency. It will not save us in the academy either. So just like Viola Davis took off her wig on how to get away with murder and let the nation know she would not be defined by someone else's oppressive standards, I want us to take off our own respectability politics for a minute and realize that no matter how much we push our students to dismiss their home languages for some assimilated standardized version, respectability will not save them or us. I want us to realize that the funkiness of Seize the Day and our sparkle ponies is one of the best things about us. And that even if we did not have them, the Chronicle still wouldn't understand us and much less save us. I am beyond grateful that Sparkle Ponies roam our halls and listen in on our sessions and inspire the connections across people and ideas that open up space for new, imaginative teaching and scholarship and make people feel welcome and at home in the process. I want us to realize the respectability of having fellows like other learned societies will not save us. I want us to realize that all our citations of high theory will not save us, and neither will try to show that we are as rigorous and as serious as some of our literary colleagues save us. I want us to realize that even the respectability of bigger budgets will not save us. As real as those issues are and our struggles with fair budgets are, we act like being broke is new. We always been underfunded. We always been figuring it out as we go. We always been dismissed and disregarded, but we served anyhow. We took care of our students anyhow. We transformed one discipline and created our own anyhow. And it was women who did that work. It was people of color who did that work. It was queer folk who did that work. It was first-generation students in New York City and across the country demanding open admissions who did that work. It was people of all backgrounds teaching 4 and 5 and 6 courses a semester, contingent and part-time and full-time and sometimes even more time, who did that work for us. Building and running programs while they taught and theorized. But sometimes it seems to me that the funk of who we've been throughout our history is dead. Our conferences sometimes are too clean, thanks to Joyce not this year. Not so fresh and so clean, but serene clean. To paraphrase a poet friend of mine, Thomas Sayers Ellis, where he says all their stanzas, I'm going to add in all our conferences and all our conference attendance look alike despite our brochures and our resolutions and our best intentions. As real as the intra-departmental and institutional condescension we face can be, our best work has happened in periods of struggle. Our best work happened when we dedicated ourselves to the students the rest of the academy didn't want. Our best work happened when our courses looked more like handcrafted zines and broadsides created on mimeographs than huge productions done and supported by huge corporate publishers. Our universities spend all this time and effort at branding, talking about excellence and distinction and matrices and best practices, but I want us, our courses and our programs and our departments to be more than that. I want us to create and work in spaces that look after the students and the teachers and the communities. The rest of the academy's pursuit of distinction, looks, and sneers, ain't nobody got time for that. I want colleagues who will show and tell and teach our students, like my sister Elaine Richardson and Rhea Lathan taught us last year, the shame tree truly is dead. I want funk to be our guide, not just because the rest of the academy feels too clean and too serene to me, but because intellectual life is funky. It is messy. It is ratchet. Trying to build a society worthy of our aims is messy. I want funk to be our guide because that is the only way we can close the huge gaps that exist between our professed ideals and our practice. The only way we can own our own privilege within oppressive spaces. Funk means we are willing to sweat. Funk means we are willing to deal with messiness and complexity. And it means we will look unflinchingly at all that pains us, all that is wrong around us, and still dance and shout and shake and twirl our way out of our constrictions. My hope for us is that as we worry a little less about being neat and clean, a little less about respectability inside our departments, programs, and universities, that as we embrace boldness, complexity, and even a little irreverence and messiness, that we will be able to take flight into intellectual, pedagogical, and programmatic spaces that we might partially see, but cannot yet fully know. Just like Mos Def and Talib Kweli said, this ain't no time when the usual is suitable. Tonight alive, let's describe the inscrutable. This is a time for exploration, for experimentation. This is a time when we can create and risk, when we can write graffiti on the walls and color outside the lines. This is a time when we don't have to have it all figured out just yet. Many of you know that flight has been a fairly consistent theme from our former chairs speaking on this occasion. I'm also asking us to take flight across space and time because, for me, flight means embracing and investing in innovation. It means creating spaces for innovation not tied to Byzantine processes of administrators or faculty senate's approval. Being willing to really fly on and reach for the stars means that we drop at least some of our worries about what's happening right now and fix our gaze on big challenges and problems and then work backwards. But because the beloved one and author of Beloved told us, if you want to fly, you gotta let go of the ish that weighs you down. Let me say this right now. By the power vested in me for these 30 or 35 minutes of this chair's address, I hereby promote the essay to dominant genre emeritus. Dear essay, I thank you for your long and committed service over more than a century. We still love you. We want you to keep an office on campus. And in our thinking, teaching, and writing lives, We will continue to throw wonderful parties and give meaningful awards in your honor. And yet, we also acknowledge the rise and promotion of many other activities around which writing and communication can be organized. And we realize that if we are going to fly and find new intellectual spaces and futuristic challenges to meet with our students and each other, we have to leave the comfortable ground we have found with you. If you're wondering if I've lost my mind at this point, let me state my case this way. The essay is a valuable, even powerful technology that has particular affordances in helping us promote communicative ability, dialogue, and critical thinking. But we've gotten too comfortable relying on those affordances as our writing and communication universe goes through not only intense change, but an ever-increasing tempo of change. And I admit that change gets dizzying, and I often find myself relying on the opening words of my favorite artist of the entire soul and funk era, Donny Hathaway, in the painfully, plaintively beautiful song, "Someday We'll All Be Free." Hang onto the world as it spins around. Just don't let the spin get you down. Never mind your fears. We've been talking about technological changes in communication for more than 30 years, thanks to venues like Computers in Composition, and to many of our technical and professional writing scholars who were here at ATTW yesterday. Jackie Royster challenged us years ago to expand our vision of academic discourses in her classic Small Boats in a Big Sea. And we've been talking about multimodal, multimedia forms of composing for a long time as well. This is the time for us to take those calls to yet another level. Think with me about the literacies, about the understandings that the essay has helped us build with students. Ethical source use and connection to scholarly community, the ability to value other voices, including those with whom we disagree, the ability to develop compelling support for an idea, experimentation with different rhythms and organizing strategies in our prose. This is obviously only the beginning, but you get the idea. Now keep those abilities in mind and consider what the authors of Confronting the Challenges of Participatory Culture argue are the literacies that we have to develop with our students for right now and for the future. Play, performance, simulation, appropriation, multitasking, distributed cognition, collective intelligence, I am because we are, judgment, transmedia navigation, networking, and negotiation across diverse communities. But there's more than literacy, more than changing literacies at stake. As composing becomes more and more enmeshed in digital environments, as we become more and more enmeshed in the matrix, and in digital tools, environments, practices, and networks, we need to see this as a crossroads moment for our scholarship too. That crossroads for me is one where we see that we have to embrace technology issues, not as part of what we do, but as central to what we do. Technology needs to be what we do, not just because literacy has always been technologized, not just because of computers and composition, but because of the big picture technological issues that are always brought to bear on all facets of our lives and work. Questions about privacy and surveillance, about policy and legal frameworks, about how technologies are marketed, about design, about networks, about artificial intelligence and natural language processing, just to begin the list. So we need to ask different questions about writing with technologies, but also about writing in relationship to big picture technology issues. Just as a couple of examples. When it comes to writing, what happens to composing when laptop and desktop computers and mobile phones go the way of the typewriter? How will wearable and implantable technologies change our access to information and our ability to share with each other? How will the constant sharing that sometimes makes us uncomfortable on social media go into warp drive when audio and video recording of everything, like that camera back there right now, becomes as commonplace as clicking and sharing a link are now? How will we respond when the dramatic changes in the pace of change exacerbate racial and gender divides that are already staggering? What I'm trying to suggest is that we need to take the next step in our investigations of technology issues far beyond the boxes and wires. That because writing, communication, composing are always technologized, big picture technology studies, in the ways that we might imagine science and technology studies programs, needs to become a crucial central part of what we do. It is time for some new journals and book series to take as big a leap forward now as Kairos and technoculture and computers and composition did in their beginnings. They took risks. It's time for us to take some now. Journals and book series that are dedicated to those big, messy, big picture concerns that structure technologies and our relationships to them. In a cultural moment when we are fascinated by the visual because of Instagram and Vine, perhaps blinded by the image, to riff on a classic article by John Dan Johnson, Ilola, and Ann Wysocki, we need more work in sound studies and oral composing and audio archives. We need more critical edge when it comes to technology studies so that we don't become hoodwinked every time governments and corporations unite to sell us utopian visions about what the next new technological hotness that will heal everything that ails us. And to do all of this, as Malcolm X famously said, we need some new friends. It's time for us to travel across campus, across programs, and into more strategic relationship building by doing more with affiliate faculty and cross-disciplinary courses and certificates. We need deeper connections with the disciplines that get lumped into area studies, long-term systematic relationships with gender and women's studies, indigenous studies, Latino studies, Asian and Asian American studies, and Africana studies. We need to build deep and long-term intellectual relationships with university libraries and iSchools that go beyond the first-year comp trip to the library to learn about source use. And we need to keep working hard on that fourth C in our title. We have to do long-term work to build more on our relationships with communication programs, schools, and departments. Many of our members attend RSA and NCA, but how can we take those individual relationships that exist and use them to deepen our programmatic relationships? What can we do throughout 4Cs in our home departments and programs to build long-term with Hispanic-serving institutions and tribal colleges and HBCUs? We need greater connection and collaboration across programs and organizations because even the most brilliant faculty, even the largest writing and rhetoric programs, even a badass organization like 4Cs cannot do this futuristic work alone. My sister Gwen Pugh told us that some time ago, right? However, to invoke flight, even imagine flight, at a time like this might seem fraudulent, given that none of us on the ground is free. We're not free to fly when one of our own, my sister Dr. Ursula Ore, was assaulted and thrown to the street because a police officer didn't like the way she responded to it. And on our own campuses, we are not free to take flight when the exploitation of highly skilled teachers and scholars labeled as contingent, labeled as adjunct, minimized with a part-time tag is allowed to flourish. It may be that we will never see this society become brave enough to move beyond sexism, homophobia, racism, and economic exploitation. Ta-Nehisi Coates might have had it right when he stated on Twitter last week, maybe we shall not overcome, but I'm still here to ask us to think about freedom as crucial to our work. Michelle Ndegeocello put it best in a song called Satisfied. I'm asking us to think about how we find what she calls, quote, freedom amid this mockery. I'm asking us to think about freedom in this unfree world because the only freedom we will see, the only freedom we will get is the freedom we take. And the only way we get free is to get off campus and walk with and learn from those who are out here working in freedom struggle right now. One thing this means in our work is we have to focus less on the rhetorical exemplars, focus less on the successful movements. Freedom work is funky rather than refined. It is becoming rather than overcome. It is in process rather than proclaimed. When I was in Syracuse, I used to put together community ciphers, and I've done the same in Lexington and Cleveland on different topics. Some would have as few as 10 or 12 people, some as many as 50 or 60. And one of the many beautiful things about these groups is that they maintain the focus on what we can do, no matter how bad things seemed. And while there were many reasons we kept that focus, the greatest reason, the huge amount of it, was due to one woman, someone I sometimes called Mother Sister after the Ruby Dee character in Spike Lee's movies. Anytime our conversation would get too world-weary or too mired in the obstacles we might see, she would stand up and she would say, "God damn it, just act like you're free." Miss Beulah's exclamation was so powerful to us that it became a refrain for almost everyone in all the groups because of her insistence that we claim our own agency no matter what the external difficulties. Now, one reason or one way we got to just act like we're free, we got to free ourselves from the set of handcuffs that the same old theory and the same old theorists and the same old scholarship place on us. Movie producer Harvey Weinstein talked to Vulture magazine recently about the lack of diversity in the Oscars, and I kind of scratched my head and thought to myself, even the Oscars are less white than our published scholarship in the awards we give for scholarly publications. As my man Sayers said, all their stanzas look alike, but sometimes too much of our theorizing and scholarship do too. As important as big names like DeSerto or Jamerson or others might be to our work, there is just as much theoretical richness to be gleaned from Anna Julia Cooper, from Minnie Bruce Pratt, from Vine Deloria, from the Young Lords in New York, from dreamers working for undocumented students and dream defenders in the Crunk Feminist Collective, and from young local people and organizations whose names we don't know. The moment when we will have some intellectual freedom as scholars and as an organization will be not just when the demographics of our conferences and our faculties look like America, but when our citation practices and works cited lists do too. I came by this morning with my mind stayed on intellectual freedom and work for racial and social and sexual and economic justice, because the only way to gain the freedom we so desperately need, not only as a society, but as a discipline in a community of scholars and teachers and workers, is through the very problems that seem so intractable. Womanist theologian Katie Cannon said it better than I ever could. In a sermon published in the late James Haskins collection, Keeping the Faith, titled Living the Life of Jubilee, Cannon transforms the very idea of Jubilee and with it the very idea of liberation. I imagine her words in this sermon as a guide for the work I hope to do. She says, "And in these modern times, what do we do What do we say when the powers and principalities, when the wickedness in high places say to us, go get your sons, go get your daughters, go get your nieces and your nephews, go get your grandchildren, go get your great-grandchildren, go get your sisters and brothers and hand them over to us? Yes. What are we saying? What are we doing when the bureaucrats and the drug dealers? What are we saying? What are we doing with the global capitalists and the gangbangers? What are we saying when the cold-hearted, mean-spirited power brokers and the misogynistic Bible-thumping homophobes demand the souls of the people in our families, the people in our churches, the people in our communities? When the people who don't mean any good to us demand the souls of our sisters and brothers anywhere in the world. But is what she does next in the sermon that is simply transformative. Rather than proclaim Jubilee as some moment when those who are enslaved are free or people are relieved of their debts, she challenges her people by flipping the script. Instead of a powerful moment of celebration of freedom gained, she challenges them to live the life of Jubilee justice. Rather than some mystical, majestical moment, Jubilee becomes a lifelong commitment to the work of liberation. Being able to reach higher ground, or to fly on and reach for the stars demands service in the valleys where we live and struggle. And when we see it this way, our service mission, composition service mission to our students, to our campuses, and to our communities becomes the very thing that gives us the freedom to fly. As real as the obstacles are that we face on campus, in community, in public, at home, as real as the walls and impediments to movement are here on the ground, let us make this space that we create here together for these few days be one where we proclaim, ain't no walls behind the sky, baby. As we come here to be renewed and to renew each other, let us embrace the funk that keeps us from being completely sanitized by academic silos and conventions, and let us fly on, reaching for stars we cannot yet map, see, or scan. Let us be committed to creating free spaces for ourselves and to standing with and learning from those who are engaged in freedom struggle, not in some sanitized moment in the past, but in the messy right here and now. Let us use the freedom we take for those who do not have our protections or our privileges inside and outside the academy. Let us use it to become Deep Space Nine, a hub for intellectual life and critical dialogue on campus and off. And let us use it to serve our students, to serve the local communities in which we live, love, work, and play, and to serve our broader society, which needs our attention to discourse and ability to enter messy public conversations, maybe more now than at any point in our recent memory. 4C15, thank you. And with that, we out. Like George Duke say, let's reach for it.